For the third straight row in the playoffs, the Cowboys are once again out in the first two rounds. Last year, they lost to the 49ers in the divisional round. And the year before that, they lost to the 49ers in the wild card round. This time, though, they lose to the 7 seed Green Bay Packers in a game that everybody thought the Cowboys, well, except me, they were going to win for sure. And now the Cowboys are going to have a few decisions to make this offseason. Number one, Dak Prescott is up for an extension, and you would have to think that regardless of what happens with the coaching change, you would have to think that Dak Prescott will be back next season. Secondly, now there comes the coaching change because we have heard rumblings that Mike McCarthy may be done if the Cowboys get first round exit in the playoffs this year. And we have heard rumblings that Dan Quinn also could be taking a head coaching job with the Seattle Seahawks or some other team in general. So there are a few changes that the Cowboys are going to have to make possibly this season. However, you might not want to worry about a head coaching job right now because your defense looked absolutely terrible in that game. Couldn't guard the run, couldn't guard the pass, you couldn't guard anything. It was absolutely terrible. Overall, the Dallas Cowboys gave up over 400 yards of offense against the Green Bay Packers. This was an absolute beatdown by the Packers offensively. And you would have to think that multiple teams with vacant head coaching spots were watching this game, trying to figure out how Dan Quinn would play and if he would show up. And he put on the absolute worst audition ever for a head coaching spot in the playoffs. But in the end, there needs to be accountability for everybody on this team, honestly. Dak Prescott didn't do a lot of good in this game. As I said, he showed up a lot for the most part in garbage time. But overall, for the most part of the game, Dak Prescott wasn't too good of a quarterback. Those two interceptions were really boneheaded plays. And like I said, as a quarterback who's trying to aim for a new contract and a quarterback who was in MVP talks, you should expect him to show up in these type of games. On the other hand, Mike McCarthy has proven once again that he cannot win the big games. Honestly, he's like the Doc Rivers of the NFL. He's a guy that won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but ever since then, he has been a playoff choker as a head coach. And if we're being for real, the Cowboys did have the privilege of beating up some really bad teams for the most parts during their season. I mean, week 1, they beat up Daniel Jones. Week 2, they beat up Zach Wilson. They beat up Mac Jones. They beat up Tommy DeVito. They beat Sam Howell twice. They beat rookie Bryce Young. I mean, like I said, for the most part, the Cowboys had the privilege of, like I said, beating some really bad teams all season. And I know that's going to obviously offend some people watching this video, especially Cowboys fans, but it's the truth. The Cowboys are simply not a playoff team. They're a team that's always going to play good in the regular season, but when it comes time to these big playoff moments, they're not going to show up. And I said Dak Prescott didn't show up, but Micah Parsons, a guy who's supposed to be the defensive player of the year, also did not show up in this game. And I remember a couple weeks ago, Cam Newton got the most hate ever when he said guys like Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, a lot of these guys, they're not difference makers. They're just simply game managers. They're not going to, win a game because of them, but they're not bad quarterbacks. They're not necessarily elite. And Dak Prescott is one of those guys today. Dak Prescott proved that he's not necessarily a difference maker, but he's not necessarily a bad quarterback either. But he's not going to simply carry your team to a Super Bowl by himself. So in case you haven't realized it here, so many people here deserve the blame. Your defense, that's supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league, didn't show up. Your offense didn't show up until later in the game in garbage time. Your head coach didn't make the right adjustments to win this game at either. Like I said, so many problems here. The Cowboys were essentially handed the second seed in the NFC after the Eagles also collapsed, and they were going to play a 7 seed. A 7 seed has never won a playoff game to this point. That just changed today with the Packers. And based off Jerry Jones' reaction, I don't know what's going to happen with a lot of these guys on this team. Like I said, Dak is up for an extension, and is he really worth that extension to this point? With Mike McCarthy, after all these one-and-dones, these two-and-dones, will he be back? A lot of questions for the Cowboys offseason will be coming up pretty soon. And honestly, it's going to be a very intriguing offseason for them. And honestly, I'm kind of looking forward to see what's going to happen with them. Hopefully, they make the worst head coaching hiring ever. I'm a Giants fan. I'm obligated to say that. But you guys let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about the state of the Cowboys right now? And how do you think they need to approach this offseason? And what do you think has gone wrong for them pretty much every year to this point? Let me know in the comments down below. If you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Tap the bell icon for future football content and sports content in general. And follow me on all social medias down below in the description. And I will hope to see you guys in the next video. Peace.